Aubrey Hill. I'm a sophomore at Bainbridge High School. My Laws of Life essay is called Guilt and Grief Go Hand in Hand. My maxim is, in life you learn lessons, and sometimes you learn them the hard way, sometimes you learn them too late. And my character trait is responsibility. I killed my dog. There's no other way to put it. Even though my parents assured me that it was no one's fault and that mistakes happened, I cannot help but blame myself. If only I had paid more attention, been less forgetful, or taken my time getting out of the car, then maybe, just maybe, my sweet Bailey the Beagle would still be around. After months of guilt, I came to the realization sometimes you learn lessons the hard way, and it sucks. There's nothing more exciting for a teenager than receiving their license, so when my dad told me to hop in the driver's seat, I was ecstatic. As we were leaving the house, my dog, Bailey, started whining and pawing at our feet to go with us. She loved riding in the car. She would stick her head out the window so her big silky ears would blow in the wind, but even more than that, she loved eating all of our leftover french fries and chicken nuggets that had fallen under the seats. My dad and I agreed to bring her, so I picked her up, put her in the back seat, and rolled down the window. Everything went downhill the moment we returned home. I closed all the windows and, being the forgetful person that I am, left the car without turning the car off. This ironically resulted in a lovely lecture from my father about paying attention and being responsible. I guess the word ironic because it was the exact point in time when the both of us neglected to make sure that Bailey had been picked up and removed from the car. A few hours later, my sister came into my room and asked me if I had seen Bailey. Suddenly, my stomach dropped and a sickening feeling came over me. I already knew something was terribly wrong. I did not leave her, right? After she left, I tried my hardest to remember the last time I saw her, and I concluded that it was in the car. As I stepped out into the garage, my heart skipped a few beats as I saw my mom on the ground sobbing. In that moment, I knew the gruesome truth. I forgot to get Bailey out of the car. I took several shaky steps to where my dad stood motionless staring out the car. He must have heard me because he turned to me with red eyes and tear-streaked face. He whimpered the dreaded words, "She's dead." After a moment, his eyes wandered back towards the car where the doors were opened. My first thought went to my sister, and I found her in the living room, curled up weeping. Clearly she had been there when my parents found Bailey. I sat down and embraced her, letting her cry on my shoulder. Once her sobs quieted, I found my computer, turned on her favorite YouTuber to keep her distracted. I left her as she stared at the screen blankly and returned outside. My mom was down beside the car mourning while my dad was sitting beside her trying to console her with his own tears. I was overwhelmed with guilt and grief as I watched them. At this point, I had shed a few tears to remain strong for my sister, but as horrible thoughts flooded my mind of self-hatred and shame, my cheeks were suddenly wet with silent tears. The next morning, we held a funeral and said our goodbyes and buried her in the backyard. I found my dad afterwards, asked him the question born into my mind. Was it my fault? He responded the way all parents would. No, of course not. Do not think of that. I know even with his reassurances, it was my fault, and I had learned my lesson too late.